we go. So, to recap, I grew up listening to country music. I mostly stopped around the time I got old enough to realize I could listen to literally anything else. During the pandemic, I hit turn into my dad years old and I started getting back into it. And of the new music I was listening to, my favorite was coming from a hot rising star named Morgan Wallen.
Back then you used to love the river and sipping on a sixer with me. Does it ever make you sad to know that was 7 summers ago?
He had about 4 or 5 sad ballads that just absolutely broke my heart. You know, maybe it was the pandemic, but that guy really put some tear in my beer. He was easily my favorite artist of 2020. I pegged this guy as the first new superstar of the decade because he was clearly planning to go big, big places. He was the first country artist to figure out TikTok. He was already making inroads into other genres, collaborating with Diplo. He was covering Jason Isbell for that indie cred. He did get in trouble one time for partying during the pandemic, which, you know, not smart. He got him booted from Saturday Night Live, but he smoothed that out. They brought him back.
To no consequences!
He dropped a monstrous double album at the start of 2021 and it did huge numbers. It seemed like everything was going up and up. I said multiple times in multiple avenues that I was, quote, all in on Morgan Wallen. Direct quote, all in.
That could be dangerous.
Yeah. I know I have a bad track record for predictions, but boy, even I'm surprised how quickly that one blew up in my face.
Hey, take care of this pussy ass motherfucker.
Okay, you know how some of us in a certain age group grew up at a time when casual use of slurs was fairly common and tolerated, and some people have been kind of slow to rid themselves of that habit? Something kind of like that happened with Morgan Wallen. A video came out of him and his buddies calling each other slurs, but not one of the slurs from the 90s. It was the one slur that wasn't considered tolerable at any time ever.
Hey, Gracie, take care of this pussy ass
Looks like I'm learning the hard way again.
So right after his mega album dropped, right when he was on top of the world, he was instead being blasted all over everyone's screens, drunkenly shouting the N-word, in a way that's safe to assume it wasn't his first time doing that. Now, I'm not saying there's ever a good time for a white guy to be dropping the N-bomb, but this came after 4 years of Trump, nationwide protests in the streets about racism, and after Old Town Road, a whole lot of hard questions being asked about country music specifically and its history of being completely lily white. So this wasn't just one man disgracing himself and defending people. This was embarrassing to the entirety of country music and discouraging to any minority who wants to be a part of it and damaging to anyone invested in Nashville's good reputation.
When I read comments saying that this is not who we are, I laugh because this is exactly who country music is. I question on a daily basis as to why I continue to fight to be in an industry that seems to hate me so much.
And thus, the consequences were very swift. He was blackballed from radio stations across the country. He was banned from every major industry event.
CMA says it will not allow country singer Morgan Wallen to claim its top prize. This comes months after Wallen was caught on camera using a racial slur.
That was 2 years ago. Now, I know a lot of you don't care about country music or music at all. I know for some of you, I'm your only source of any music news. Don't know how that happened, but okay. So that might be all you know about Morgan Wallen, that he said the N-word 2 years ago, and maybe you heard me mention that he was trying to do some kind of apology tour last year. But if you want to know what happened after that, here's how that went. Morgan Wallen is, right now, bigger than Jesus. As I am recording this video, Morgan Wallen is about to have the #1 single in America. That's huge. If you don't count Old Town Road, which we're not having that argument again, but if you don't count that, Morgan Wallen has the first country song to hit #1 since the 90s. He just released an even longer album, and it's going to take up half the top 10 and probably most of the top 50. By the end of the year, he'll probably be bigger than Harry Styles. It's nuts, but yeah, that apology tour went about as well as it could have possibly gone. If you ever need to survive a scandal, my suggestion is to watch what he did, because he basically did everything right. Starting, to his credit, with not ever once whining about it.
I appreciate those who still see something in me and have defended me. But for today, please don't.
He said his apologies, he promised to do better, he kept his head down, he cut back on drinking, and reportedly worked hard behind the scenes to educate himself. He kept making his music and hoping people still liked him enough to let him keep doing it. And so, after living through the Naggers episode of South Park for a good year, he was just fully 100% back. Oh, and the other major part of what he did right is that he got the cosign from several black people. One of the bigger things he did was get a collaboration out with Lil Durk, and Lil Durk defended him in pretty strong terms.
I ain't no racist, it's my boy, you know, so we had a long talk. He had his public situation, we had behind closed doors, and I vouched for him and he good.
So if you wanted to listen to his music guilt-free, that was your green light. And several of the black people in Nashville also stood up for him and said that people were doing too much.
Was I personally offended or upset when he said it? No. So that's why a lot of black people we laughed at was, oh, okay, well, kind of what really kind of rubbed me the wrong way. A lot of times where I saw, white people tweeting, I'm so offended, I'm so hurt. You're not hurt. That word doesn't bother you. Now, if you...
You know what? You're right. Country singer / Dancing with the Stars contestant Jimmy Allen. I'm not black. This is not a conversation I need to be a part of. I'm not here to say whether he has or hasn't or could ever undo the damage he did to country music, or whether his presence does or doesn't make minorities feel unwelcome in Nashville. I'm not there. I don't have that authority. I should just shut up and listen to the music. So here is Morgan Wallen and his big #1 single called Last Night.
Last night.
No, hold up. I can't just detach myself from the last 2 years of controversy. I'm not trying to talk over anyone, but I still have to decide how I feel, right? It's been something I've been struggling with a lot, especially as someone who came out hard for this guy pre-scandal. I'd love to just tell you whether I liked this song or not, but all this background noise does affect me and how I hear music. Ever since the scandal, his songs have just not been hitting for me, and I've been trying to figure out whether that's because they weren't as good or because I just see him differently now. Or maybe I just resent him for making me think about things I'd rather not. It's something as a critic I can't just ignore. And, okay, look. What he did, whatever you want to say about it, it's not Kanye. It's not J.K. Rowling. It's not Eric Clapton ranting about immigrants. Like, I know this is a low bar, but what he did isn't intolerant. It's insensitive. Should it be impossible to move past that? I listened to Ben Folds cover Dr. Dre with full N-words intact on record. He didn't get canceled. Rock legend Elvis Costello used the N-word once in a much uglier context. He also used the I was drunk excuse. He did his year of apologizing and he moved past it. And what Morgan Wallen did was clearly less offensive than that. He didn't use it like Michael Richards berating an audience member. He wasn't Hulk Hogan saying he wouldn't let his daughter date black men. So it's like, oh my God, how do I have so many of these N-word incidents right off the top of my head? Oh, white celebrities, stop doing this. So what I'm saying is that I don't necessarily think a guy like this has to be blackballed forever if he demonstrates growth. Outside of the screaming on the internet, I think that's what most people think. It's not like he assaulted any women, he's not supporting any hate movements, but the Morgan Wallen redemption campaign has rubbed me wrong regardless. The first reason being that he didn't really suffer any consequences. Yes, he did. From the industry, there were consequences because he embarrassed everyone pretty badly. But from the public, he didn't. For the entire 2 years since he released Dangerous, the double album, that album has stayed in the Billboard Top 10, including 10 weeks at #1. His sales didn't dip at all. They actually went up after the incident. And knowing what I know about country music demographics, I guarantee you his career survived not in spite of the scandal, but because of it. You think Green Book won Best Picture because voters really liked it? No, it was because they didn't like how much you hated it. It was a backlash to your backlash. People saw the controversy and they doubled down. And so Wallen's return has always felt kind of tainted for me. People were supporting him because they think saying the N-word is great, actually. When he started his comeback tour, there was one report of his fans chanting, "Let's go, Brandon."
My name ain't Brandon.
And it's just man, I don't know. Okay, but those are systemic problems, right? He can't control that. if I'm gonna get mad at someone for having right-wing fans, I'm gonna have to stop listening to most country music. And yeah, I'm way too sad and drunk to do that. So all that stuff is happening, but he's just one guy trying to sing his heartbreak and drinking songs.
People around me are like, man, you know, you're a lot different than you were even a year ago or whatever, you know, and it's just, I'm glad to hear that because that's something that it's not on accident, you know.
He's just a singer trying to keep his nose clean and be a better person. Let's give him credit for that and move on. So, here is his new #1 hit song, Last Night.
I know that last night we let
No, hold on. Is he a better person? I mean, that's a tough question. Do I think he's done the work? I think he's done the work to be a guy who doesn't say the N-word anymore. I don't know if that's the same thing as being a better person. Pitchfork called his apology tour the bare minimum, which, I mean, I don't think I can really dispute that. Like, what's he said, done, demonstrated? Not a whole lot. But at the same time, what do I want him to do? Put on a Black Lives Matter shirt? Give a dissertation about the history of racism in Nashville? Apologize to Kendrick Lamar? I can't imagine anything he could do that wouldn't strike me as self-serving and phony. And I can tell you why.
boy gets a guitar and starts writing a song.
Last year, Wallen released a song that was sort of crossways about the incident, where he basically apologized for being such a fuck-up.
I don't think Jesus done it this way.
It's called Don't Think Jesus, which, that's a funny title, because you add some exclamation points after every word. That's exactly what I would have said to him 2 years ago.
Hey, Gracie, take care of this pussy ass nigga.
Don't think Jesus! There was a big showy song about how he knows he's an idiot and he's trying to be better and how he's grateful for Christian forgiveness.
If I was him, I'd say to hell with you. Ain't no helping you.
And I just hated it. It sounded so showy and fake to me. I mean, that's basically how he got past the scandal, by mostly not doing things like this. I don't want this. Just give me your Notes app apology and let's be done with this shit. And that's what he's done. And now that he's made it through that rocky, controversial patch, damaged but alive, he wants to get back to doing what he does. And boy, is he ever doing it.
Features 36, yes, 36 deeply personal songs.
He has released his next record, One Thing at a Time, a gargantuan 36-song album, which is insane. He's basically going to destroy the charts with this. He's going to have the entire top half of the Hot 100 basically to himself. Everyone else has moved on, and I think I made this video so that I could move on too. For a good while, none of his songs were working for me, but in the build-up to this new album, he released a couple songs that I was able to admit to myself, yeah, these are actually pretty good. I feel like I can be objective about this again, and as the first country artist to hit #1 in decades, he deserves an unbiased look with none of the baggage. Here, at last, is me actually reviewing Morgan Wallen's Last Night.
I know that last night we let the liquor talk. I can't remember everything we said, but we said it all. You told me that you wish I was somebody you never met. But baby, something's telling me this ain't over yet. No way it was our last night. No way it was our last night.
Yeah, this song's dog shit.
You know you love to fight.
Out of 36 songs on that album, I would rank it dead last. I hate it. You want my opinion about Last Night? My opinion is it sounds like Maroon 5.
It's beautiful, it's bittersweet.
It's a Maroon 5 song with a drawl. Maroon Wallen. His logo even looks like Maroon 5's. I know I compare Maroon 5 to a lot of things, and I think it's fitting that Maroon 5 were so generic that I use them as the generic word for generic, but here, specifically, I am not just calling the song boring. It sounds specifically like Maroon 5.
Last night that we break up, I see your taillights in the dust.
The stupid Song Factory melody and the way it goes up and down perfectly like it says to do in the manual. The shitty, perfectly of the times trap beat with its too loud bass drum going dong, dong. And most especially in the way that it's about a supposedly complicated, drama-filled relationship, but he stops to humble brag about all the hot sex they have.
Last night I kissed your lips, make you grip the sheets with your fingertips.
I mean, you can hear it, right? Put it into Adam Levine's range and imagine him singing it. Baby, baby, something's telling me this ain't over yet. It's dead on.
You call your mama, I call you bluff, and in the middle of the night, pull it right back up. Yeah.
Like, it's just a vague image of an attractive romance with a little dash of arguing to give it some drama, but this is not a song about frustration or romantic longing or even horniness. It's just bragging. Like, of course this is the most successful song on the album. It's the one that sounds the most like nothing, with almost all of its genre signifiers sanded off. The only real country thing about it is the corny double-meaning title.
Last night we said we'd had enough, the way it was our last night. We said
Last night can't be our last night. Get it? Last meaning previous, but also last meaning final. Look, I enjoy some good country music double-meaning titles, but honestly, that's some pretty weak wordplay. I mean, he has a song on that album called Days That End in Y. Get it? Why? A good country pun should be exactly that painful. This is just nothing. Last Night is going to be in the top 10 for a good long while, but it is a colossally empty, lifeless song. Like, I did all that wind-up not just to pad out a review of a song that's really not worth a lot of thought. I'm also making a point here. You think I'm twisting myself in knots listening to this guy? Imagine how much he must be in knots being this guy. He nearly destroyed his career in 2 seconds. He had to dig himself out of a hole for more than a year. The Pitchfork review said that in interviews, he talks like a guy who is scared to make any sudden moves. That's what I hear from this guy now. This is a guy who is only gonna make the safe choice. He released an album that's longer than Casablanca, full of tunes that all basically sound the same about the same 2 topics. It does have a couple songs I like, which, I mean, it's 2 hours long, it better. But I know my taste in music, and trust me, when you have exhausted even my appetite for songs about being wistful and drunk, you have written too many songs about being wistful and drunk. The title track I'd go to bat for, and a couple others, but on the whole, it's just a much worse album than the last one. Even for country music, it's repetitive. Why did he release it like this? My theory, because he can. The only person who can get away with this is Drake. He's trying to be country music's Drake, and he skipped Take Care and he went straight to Certified Lover Boy. It sounds to me like he's trying as hard as possible to be as big as possible, and his brush with cancellation has left him scared to pursue anything except slick professionalism. I used to think of him as a musically ambitious guy, and maybe I was right, maybe I was wrong, but if he was, he sure isn't anymore.
can't remember everything we said, but we said it all.
Now he just wants to rack up points. And that's why he made this album, headlined by this radio bait filler of a song about absolutely nothing. I mean, this guy's gonna be as big as Garth in a couple years. And this is what he's doing with that? We gave you a second chance for this? Way to blow it again, Morgan Wallen.
No way was I last night.
Hey, you know what is good music? Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. And my fellow YouTuber, Polyphonic, has a great breakdown of that entire album track by track, which you can watch exclusively on Nebula, a creator-specific platform where you can watch great videos from other creators like H-Bomber-Guy, Adam Neely, and myself. And now if you sign up with my link, you get free access to Nebula classes, where our creators host classes on how to be a creator. You will not only get access to all of the great stuff Nebula offers, plus classes, but you will get it for a little over $2.50 a month. And you'd also be directly supporting me, which, you know, I'd appreciate it. So click the link in the description and check it out below. Thank you for listening, and good night.
Everyone's a little bit racist sometimes. Doesn't mean we go around connecting.